Hello and welcome to Reggie's Recess, where you get real talk about real relationships. I am your host, C. Reggie Rogers, renowned relationship coach, author, radio host, television host. I'm trying to see what else could I add to my resume, but right now that's enough. And every week I do my best to provide you with great topics, provocative topics, and awesome guests. This week, I'm going to do the same. We have a great topic that we started early this month, and this topic is also centered around what month we're in. Typically, at the beginning of the month, and particularly the first day of the month, we always have that April Fools. It's all about who can we fool so that we can ultimately say April Fools. Come up with some type of great scheme and scam or whatever it is so that you can say April Fools. Well, that's what this topic this month is about. This month is about don't be fooled, the awakening. And that's important because to be awakened means to acknowledge our spiritual nature. It means to observe our behavior. It means to bring yourself into alignment with the truth. So, this is a process that involves many awarenesses, many conversions, and many painful confrontations. I've got a great guest today, and we're going to get into it. She's awesome. So today on Reggie's Recess, my guest is going to be Regeline Sabbat, who is affectionately known as Gigi Sabbat. She's my guest today. And after we come back from this commercial, we are going to get right into it. Don't be fooled, the awakening.
Hi, I'm Ernest L. Thomas from the Waldens, and you need to download the Win Network app now, or else it's gonna be tragic. Tragic!
So if you have not downloaded the Win Network yet, do yourself a favor. Please download the Win Network. You'll see me on the Win Network Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. There are so many great programs, so many great movies, family-oriented talk shows, family-oriented programs. I mean, the Win Network is a great, great, great network to add to your arsenal. So if you have not downloaded the Win Network, do so by going to www.winnetwork.com. That's the Win Network. And be sure to follow me Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. In fact, I have the best show on the Win Network. I'm just saying, I've got the best show. So my guest today is Regeline, as she is affectionately known as Gigi Sabbat. She's a motivational keynote speaker, entrepreneur, podcast host, two-time best-selling author, first-generation Haitian American. In fact, we might be related. We were trying to figure that out. We go back. We've got some lineage somewhere down the line. We're trying to figure that out before we start the show today. But she's a leader, chapter leader at World Women Conference Awards. She's done a lot. I'm very, very proud of her. I see how she's been moving. She's doing a lot. I'm following her. And I'm just honored to have her on my show today. Gigi, what's happening?
Thank you, Reggie. It's an honor to be here today.
It's my pleasure to have you as my guest on my show. Before we get into our topic today, Gigi, I just want to give you some kudos. I've really been following you. I see that you're running with Les Brown, who's actually one of your mentors. If I'm not mistaken, did he forward your book?
Yes. Yes, he did.
See, you're in great company. That's awesome. They always say if you want to know where you're going, look at the company that you keep. And so I'm saying to you, if you want to know where you're going, look at the company that you are keeping. Les Brown is an icon. He's an iconic figure. And for him to be one of your mentors, that says a lot about you. So I just want to give you some kudos and let you know I'm very, very proud of you. You're doing your thing. And I guess we could say you're doing your thing, right? You are making it happen, Gigi. We have a great topic that I've been dealing with this month. Um, we've been talking about because April is typically known as that first day of April. People are trying to see who can come up with the best scheme or scam so that they can ultimately say April Fools. Sometimes the stories are so believable, and then when they come back and say April Fools, you feel this big, right? So we're going to take that into the relationship world, and a lot of times in relationships, you know, people are fooled because of maybe someone coming up with a scheme, a scam. However, it's in the relationship, people get fooled. So I want to start today off with you by asking you this question. We typically hear this phrase, especially in spiritual circles. It's called what they say, waking up or having a spiritual awakening. When I say this, what does it mean to be awakened to you, Gigi?
Great question. It means to be aware of your spiritual nature and also of your behavior. It's so important to be in alignment with God's purpose for your life.
Wow, alignment. I could let you speak on that because that word alignment means so much. Because if we take it into the mechanical world where we talk about cars and that mechanism that gets us from one point A to point B, we talk about that, what we call an automobile. When an automobile is out of alignment, it shakes. It lets you know that there's something wrong with the steering of that automobile. Something's not lined up properly. So when you go down the highway, you feel a little trimmer. When you're driving down the street, you feel a little trimmer. And so what it creates is the stern wheel won't sit level. The stern wheel will be off, and you'll also feel the trimmer in the stern wheel. So when you say alignment, that is like so powerful, Gigi, because it creates something within us that lets us know there's a shake, there's something off. Um, I used to say so often, my dad and I used to have these conversations, and my dad would always say to me, when you should make a decision about something. If you made the wrong decision, he would always say, there will always be something off within you when you've made a wrong decision. There will always be what he would call this diseasement that you would feel. So when you say alignment, I don't know if you realize or recognize how powerful that word is, and then maybe you do. What does alignment mean for you, Gigi?
Yes, it's very important to understand God's purpose for your life. You are not truly living if you are not aware of your purpose. A lot of times, individuals have something that occurs in their lives, such as a major challenge or a trial or tribulation. What happens is we see them step into their purpose after the fact. But here's the thing, you can be aware of your purpose prior to an occurrence happening in your life. You have to take a step back and self-reflect. Get quiet and listen to God. So important. Now, I'll backtrack here and I'll tell you a little bit about my story here in regards to when I almost lost my life. I almost lost my life 2 years ago, death by strangulation in a domestic violence relationship. And
Ooh.
after that occurred, I stepped into my purpose because I understand God's purpose for my life is to serve his people on this new spiritual platform. So understand this, we can write all of our plans, but understand again, God knows the purpose that he has for us and he knows the plans he has for us.
Whoa!
So
Listen, you just said, like, what's that? Many are the plans in a man's hearts, but it's the Lord's purposes that always prevail.
that's right. That's right. You can write a long list, write a list if you want. But again, if there's a delay or a detour on where you're heading, understand God caused that delay or detour for a reason, not for no reason. And he has a purpose for everything that happens in your life. God won't bring you to anything that he will not get you through.
Mm. Listen, you got me fired up over here, Gigi. Listen, when you talk about that delay or that, because a delay doesn't mean a deny. Sometimes people are delayed, and they mistake being delayed for being denied. A delay just means that is exactly that. It's delayed. Doesn't mean it's denied. Sometimes a delay will cause you to get back on track, so that, because as you're speaking about that purpose, I can easily go with where it says all things work together for the good and according to his purpose. All things work together for the good of them that said that love him, but those who have been called according to his purpose. There's a purpose and a plan for all of us. And again, that goes back to that alignment. When we understand how it, in regards to being in alignment, we understand the purpose then and the plan. And when we get off course, then that causes sometimes what you talked about, the delay. But because we are delayed doesn't always means we are denied. Um, we have to understand, though, that we are purpose driven people and that there is a purpose for all of us. And so, that one word that I was looking for that just came to me, that just dropped into my mind, the word that I was looking for was unsettling. That's what happens when you're not in alignment. There becomes an unsettling. There's an unsettling somewhere in you. That's the tremor. That's the shake. You said so much in there, Gigi. So being awakened to you means, would you say, finding your purpose?
Yes. Yes. And being aware of your behaviors. Too often, individuals are just drifting. They're just drifting. I'll say that again. They're just drifting. But if they awaken and step into their purpose, then they can truly live. Again, you're not living until you're living your purpose, because God has a purpose for everyone. Everyone is truly unique. So awareness truly matters.
Wow, awareness does matter. God has a purpose and a plan for all of our lives. And I think that once we get in alignment, as you said, with the purpose and the plan, that also has a lot to do, Gigi, to me, um, because life is broken down into modules: learning, earning, and turning. That's one module. Like, that's, we learn. How do we learn? We learn through observation, we learn through experimentation, but then we also learn through maturation. Maturation is when we mature and we grow up into some things. When we get to that level of growing, that's, see, as we go, we grow. So when we get to that place of growing, then we also can get to that place of knowing. And I think maturity has a lot to do with finding your purpose, because when you get to that place of finding your purpose, now you're beginning to know. You can start knowing some things about you. You discover some things about you. And it's important that as we're talking about being aware, as you said, and awaken, that has a lot to do with discovery.
That's right.
Discovering your, what I will call your modus operandi. What is your modus operandi? What's your MO? What do you need to discover about yourself? Because I want to make this bold confession. A genuine awakening causes you to recognize that much of what you previously thought or understood was quite limited or partial. Please, people, you got to get that. A genuine awakening causes you to recognize that much of what you previously thought, that you thought you knew or that you thought you understood before, was quite limited or partial. Because now layers are starting to be stripped. Now you're starting to know some things. And now you're starting to grow so that you can go. And as you're going, you're growing. And now you're knowing. So it's, you got to pull back those layers. I want to say something else, Gigi. Let me see what you think about this. When I say don't be fooled, the awakening, what does this mean to you?
Oftentimes, there's a pattern of folks in a matrix, and that matrix are the folks that are not awakened. So that's why it's truly important to be aware of what your purpose is. Because once you're aware what it is, then you can step fully into it. So it all goes back again to awareness. Other than that, yes, you are being fooled because you're in a matrix. So you need to get out of the matrix. If you're listening to this message, get back up no matter what happens in your life. Get out of the matrix. Understand this: you are not your circumstances, your surroundings, your trials, your tribulations. Again, I'll say it: God has a purpose for your life.
Wow, listen, get out of the matrix. I think so many people are in that matrix. But it's what I like to consider, or what I like to call, people are unconscious. That's why I feel like when I talk about dating and relationships, one of the things is my moniker is I give dating from a conscious male's perspective, consciousness. So many people are unconscious. And when you're in a fight, when you're in a battle or a fight, when somebody punches you, what they normally say is they punch you and you fall out, they say he's unconscious. And so it's not until he starts to come back to, or they come back to, then they come back and say, okay, he's conscious now. But when you get hit and you fall and you're out, you're unconscious. And so many people have an unconscious, what I would call an unconscious awareness. And so we got to get them to this place of what you just talked about, getting them to this place of being aware, so they have this, what I call a conscious awareness. And that's always been my objective, Gigi, to give dating and relationships from a conscious male's perspective. And conscious sometimes to me has a lot to do with getting you to that place that you really understand that what you thought you understood, what you thought you previously knew, may have been quite limited or partial. So now you can become more open, and you become more minded rather, so that you can be more aware. And I would ask you this, Gigi, because we're talking about people being unconscious. People need to be get to that place of getting out of the matrix so they become aware. How would you aid or assist one of your friends if they thought they were, or if they thought rather, their significant other was fooling them by lying to them?
Yes. So it's very important to meet people where they are and to ask the right questions to see how you can assist them the best way that you can. So essentially, I would say I'm here to support. I'm here to support. But you can't make anyone do anything or see anything. All I can
So
do is be there as support.
so you'd be their support system, which a part of their support system. I get that. So would you would you try your best? I don't like to use the word try. Would you do your best to maybe create a conversation that enables them to get some type of awareness?
Yes, I love educating. So I would educate in regards to the matrix I referred to, that you can get out of the matrix once you're aware of it. You have to be aware of your surroundings. A lot of times, individuals believe that their circumstances, again, define them or limit them. Just because you're in a certain situation right now doesn't mean you have to remain in that situation. Once you are aware of what is going on and where you are, if you do not want to be there, you need to get out.
Okay, so once they become aware of where they are, because here's what my dad told me, Gigi. My dad said, and it's funny because I always bring back to my memory what my dad said years ago, and it because it comes back and it makes sense. So when you first hear it, a lot of times doesn't make sense. Your mother may have said something, your parents may have said something, but it didn't make sense then. But it wasn't until you got to that place that you were ready to receive it, that you could recognize the necessity of it, so that you can get to the subterfuge of the substance of what was being said. So my dad said at some point, every person in life will have to ask themselves three questions: who am I? Where am I going? And how am I going to get there? See,
That's right.
to me, that epitomizes You got to get to that place at some point where you become awakened and aware. Who am I? Okay, that's a tough gut question because you got to make an assessment about who you really are. Where am I going? Maybe I don't know, but I need to figure this out. And then how am I going to get there? Okay, what is the conduit that is going to enable me to get to that destination? See, that's when you get to that place of it becomes like a purpose driven life because now I know who I am. I know whose I am. So not only do I know who I am, how I know where I'm going. That's important. And as you said, people are that you didn't use the word aimlessly wandering, but I think you said people are drifting. Is that what you
That's
said?
right.
So people are drifting, people are aimlessly wandering because those are three questions that they refuse to ponder. They refuse to find that out, because if you really find that out, it's going to take too much work, and then you might not want to do the work that is required to help you get to your place or your destination. A lot of times, it's just really GG. People don't really. It's lip service. They don't really want to do the work, but they'll talk about the work, but they don't really want to do the work. Have you found that to be the case?
That's right. Yes. And you said it correctly. Action truly matters. Once you become aware, then you need to take positive action to then change your circumstance. Okay. So action truly matters. Awareness, positive action, not negative action, positive action. Then you will get positive results.
Okay, so here's, I think, something that we can take, you all that are listening, and we certainly appreciate all of you that are listening to us today, watching us by way of Facebook Live. Some of you are watching us on YouTube. Some of you will even catch this tonight on 87.9 Heat FM in Charlotte. Others will catch it on the Win Network down the road. And so all I'm saying is we're very appreciative that you're receiving what we're saying, because this conversation is not an easy conversation for a lot, because a lot of people don't want to have that conversation with themselves. The communication of being able to have a positive dialogue with yourself. It's okay to talk to yourself. People, when people see people talk to themselves, they think that there's something wrong with them. I think the opposite. I think there's something right with them because they know how to have a conversation with themselves. And sometimes we have to have those conversations with ourselves. Sometimes maybe somebody's asking themselves, who am I really? And they're probably responding, where am I going? And they're probably responding. You just seem to catch them when they're talking to themselves and you think they're crazy, but really they're figuring out in their mind from a mental standpoint so that they can say, okay, now I get my purpose. Now I understand my destiny. Because we all come to planet Earth with a purpose. We all come to planet Earth with a destiny. And so it's up to us to get to that place of understanding what the purpose is so we can fulfill the purpose. And my question, Gigi, to you, which was, if you had a friend and you thought that their significant other was fooling them by lying to them, you said you would give them positive reinforcement. That's important, positive reinforcement, because, if we started off this conversation by saying Les Brown, that's your mentor. He forwarded your book. But I also said to you, if you want to know where you're going, look at who you're with. That's important. So if you had a friend that needed positive reinforcement, you know, it's there's an old saying that says, don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. You always want to be positive reinforcement for the company that you keep. That's important because people are watching you. People read you. People may not ever read a book, but they'll certainly read you. So if people are going to read me, Gigi, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them something to read. Positive reinforcement. Because people are studying your behavior. People study how you walk, how you talk, how you do your certain things. They may not ever read a book, but I'm telling you, they read us. So it's important that we give them positive reinforcement. So let me ask you this question, Gigi. How does being a motivational coach help with the awakening? And that goes back to that positive reinforcement. How does being a motivational, because you're motivating so many people. I've been watching you. I haven't given you shout outs in a long time, but I'm watching you, trust me, and I see what you got going on. And, you're in the right circles. You just seem to be around a lot of positive reinforcement for yourself. So, how does being a motivational coach help you with the awakening?
Yes. So I love being a motivational coach. Why? Because I can help others get unstuck. Too often, individuals become stuck in all areas of their life or a certain area of their life, and I'm able to assist them to help them understand that they can overcome anything. That's right. You can overcome anything. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you cannot overcome a challenge that has occurred in your life. With God, all things are possible. Again, you just need to step into your purpose, and God has a purpose for your life. And so I also help others discover their purpose. Discover their purpose because it's so important. Again, I'll say it. You are not truly living until you are aware of your purpose. And I'll say it again. A lot of times people are just drifting. They're drifting and they don't even know that they're drifting. They're not aware. But once I work with an individual and I make them aware, then they say, oh, okay, now I understand God's purpose for my life once we discover their purpose. But again, everyone is unique. So I cannot say, well, this worked for that person, so this will work for this person. We see that too many times in our society with coaches. They say, oh, well, that worked for this person, it will work for that person. That is not true. Everyone is unique.
Yes.
To truly understand someone, you need to know and understand their background and where they come from. You can't classify one individual in the same box as everyone else. That's not how it works.
Yes.
Everyone is unique. And then you wonder why. Have you ever seen someone say, oh, well, I thought I knew that person, and then I saw this, and then I discovered so much more. That's because you didn't ask the right questions. You see what I'm saying? When you ask folks the right questions, then you'll see the various answers that you get, because not everyone is the same.
I want to try my best to tag team what you and come back and piggyback off of a lot that you just said there. One of the questions that I ask, people always ask me, Reggie, are you in a relationship? What's going on? And I always say I'm happily single. Not that I'm opposed to a relationship, because I'm not. But I realize what I'm looking for, and I'm not going to settle for anything less, nor will I compromise. But one of the questions that I asked Gigi, and it's a consistent question, because I asked them, what makes you unique? That's my first question that I will ask someone, and particularly that I may be interested in. I will ask, what makes you unique? That is so important, because you know what that does? That's going to unravel so much about the person, because they're going to start talking and they're going to start trying to figure out what makes them unique. You know what my next question is? My next question is how do you spend the bulk of your day? I'm not asking them what you do for a living. That's old school. Everybody says, "So what do you do? What's your vocation? What's your occupation?" Nah, because if you ask them how do you spend the bulk of your day, their vocation is going to come up, and then so many other things is going to come up. So here's my point. What you just said was, in all you're getting, you got to get understanding. So, in order to get understanding, you have to pose the right questions so that you could get understanding. There's so many other questions that I go to, trust me, but those are my first two. I got a litany of questions, because you know what? You know why? Because I don't want to be out of alignment. I want to make sure that I'm in alignment with my purpose, as you said. I'm in alignment with my destiny. And that meet and greet stage may take a couple of meet and greets to get those questions out, to get those answers, so that you can discover or determine, or whether decipher, if you even want to have a date with that person. So you said a mouthful there, and all you're getting, get understanding. What, you want to get that person to the place of they do understand what makes them unique. What is the uniqueness about you? You want that unicorn. I want a unicorn. So what makes you unique? What is the thing that separates you from everybody else? And we all have it once we determine what it is. We got to figure it out, right? But you also said something else in there that I wanted to tap into. There's this. You said nothing is impossible, and you said that a couple times. Nothing is impossible. Well, I need our listeners to understand that there is an old. It says, "Greater is He that's in us than he or anything that's around us." We do have that greater inside of us. We have the greater thing, the greater one, the greater it inside of us. It's not until we discover that we can tap into it, because there is nothing really impossible. This is old and everybody probably knows this, but impossible says I'm possible. So if impossible says I'm possible, then that means I'm possible. So nothing is really impossible. And so it's just us figuring it out. And I want to say to my audience today, maybe strategize with yourself. Have a strategic conversation with yourself and be honest with yourself, so that if you don't feel you've been awakened or aware, because one of the other things that you said, Gigi, is you try to make people become awakened. I don't try to make people become awakened. I try to get people to become enlightened. Because I think when people become enlightened, then their antenna starts to go up, because people misconstrue enlightenment with awareness, or enlightened with being awakened. Two totally different things. And I'm going to probably talk about that later. So just because somebody has now become enlightened doesn't mean they've been awakened. It's just their antenna has now gone up. And that's what we got to get them to that place. Gigi, I want to ask you one last question. What would you say to someone who's listening that feels they have been fooled for too long and need to experience an awakening? And can you give them pointers on how they can live their best life?
Yes. I would say take your time, get quiet, and listen to God. And a lot of people, they say, hey, I want to build a relationship with God. Where do I start? A great place, the Bible. When we read the Bible, God is speaking to us. We are building a relationship with God when we read the Bible. Understand this, God wants to be a part of all areas of your life. A lot of times people say, well, I have God in my personal life. And then they get to their work and they say, what's going on? What's going on? Well, understand this, God wants to be a part of your business. He wants to be a part of all areas of your life, including your relationships, your finances, everything, all areas. He's just waiting for you to let him in. Let him in. Let him be there for you, because he's there. He's the creator of all things.
Wow. Well, we've heard it today from Regeline, Gigi, Sabbat. And, I believe God follows us everywhere we go. I believe God is with us. I believe He's in the still small voice. God is with us. And if He's with us, then nothing can be against us. And I believe God is certainly with us. And, there are those who may not utilize, or you call them God. Some of you may think about as the universe, source energy. Fine. But He's with us wherever we go. Gigi, I want to ask you a question. If somebody is listening today and they want to look you up, they want to find you, they want to buy your books, because they certainly can appreciate your transparency and appreciate you being a young woman that has that fire inside of her belly, how can they find you?
Yes, they can go to my website, www.lifeservicecenterofamerica.llc.com. And then also, too, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn in. And they can get a free sample of my book via my website. Again, that's Life Service Center of America, LLC.com. And lastly, I leave your audience with this, Reggie. Joshua 1:9 states, "Haven't I commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid or discouraged, for your Lord your God is with you wherever you go." You just mentioned, Reggie, that God is with us wherever we go. And I want to shed light on that is what Joshua 1:9 states, that God is with us wherever we go. So for the audience that's listening today, you're not alone. God is with you wherever you go.
I also want to add to what you said. I think it's Joshua 1:5. He says, be strong, be courageous. And he comes back and says it again in Joshua 1:9. Be strong and be very courageous. So that's what we have to do. We have to be strong and courageous. And then we have to be strong and be very courageous. And he is with us everywhere we go. Gigi, it's been fun. You are awesome. Thank you so much for being our guest today. It was a lot. I really enjoyed it. We're going to do this again real soon. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing. And I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you, Reggie.
We're going to go into a commercial and we will be back. Those of you that are watching us, man, this was so awesome. She was great. And we were able to talk about so much. So I hope some of you are feeling what we're feeling, to not to be fooled, but to be awakened. We're going to go to a commercial and we'll be back right after this commercial.
Hi, I'm Ernest L. Thomas from the Waldens, and you need to download the Win Network app now, or else it's gonna be tragic. Tragic!
Hey, listen, I want to challenge you to become a sponsor of what we do. If you like the programming that we bring to you on a weekly basis, I want to challenge you to be a sponsor. There are different levels for sponsorship, and it's not hard. It's very easy to become a sponsor. As you see there, we have different levels. There's a silver level for $100. You get a one man woman T-shirt. It's a one man woman tour T-shirt. Now I'm going to show you. We'll show you what the T-shirts look like here very shortly. But let me also share with you that the one man woman tour simply means one man woman. If you see that, how it sets up, you got one man woman. That means women you win, one man woman, and it says hour. That tour comes into hour. So that's one man with one woman, and it becomes hour. Two people creating oneness to become hour together. One man woman tour. So that one man woman tour was all about a tour that we created. And I was the only man on the tour with all ladies, and it was an empowering tour for women. So for the silver level of $100, you get a one man woman tour T-shirt. That's as with your support of $100. On the gold level for $250, you'll get a one man woman tour baseball hat and T-shirt. That's for the gold level, $250. And then on the platinum level for $500, we'll give you a one man woman tour baseball hat, T-shirt, my book, plus my workbook. That is being for your support if you become a sponsor. Now, here's what your T-shirts look like. You'll be able to get them. You'll see we have the black tanks, the black and the white tanks. We have the V-neck T-shirts, black and white, and you could get the white hat to match the white tank or T-shirt, or you could get the black hat to match the black tank or T-shirts. If you just want to go, you can get the T-shirts without saying I don't want to be a supporter, but I do want one of those T-shirts. And especially now the weather's changing, you can rock these T-shirts on the beach, rock these T-shirts to the supermarket, wherever. They're very comfortable, good material. You can go to www.onemanwoman.com. One Man Woman. That's WONMAN woman.com. Onemanwoman.com. And there you can go get your T-shirts there. If you don't want to say be one of the levels of sponsorships, you just want to support us in our merchandise, well, you're still supporting us there with our merchandise. So we certainly appreciate that. Go there today, onemanwoman.com. So this month we have been talking, and it's been a fun month, we've been talking in regards to becoming awakened and not being fooled. And I think for a lot of times in relationships, we see that uh, people go into relationships with what we call games and gimmicks. I personally don't like games, nor do I like gimmicks. And I think how we decide to live our lives in the world has a lot how we decide to live our lives in our relationships. And I think maybe ask yourself, are you a gamer or are you full of gimmicks? Please say no, because I hope you're not. You know, Women, I realize you guys want to be loved and we want to love you. And men, women, you need to understand we don't necessarily we want to be loved, but we want to be appreciated. That's what we want. We want to be appreciated. So when we become awakened and aware to who we are, what we want, and what it takes to make a happy, healthy, wholesome relationship, then it makes all the difference in the world. I don't want you to be fooled. I don't want to be fooled. I don't want to fool you. And I'm sure you don't want to fool me. So we don't have to go into a relationship having to try to fool one another. We can come into relationships with our true selves. But this cannot happen until we become awakened and aware. And we talked about that awakened versus enlightened. Awakening is related to, but distinct from being enlightened or that enlightenment. Enlightenment is a state of being in incomplete alignment with all that is. And in alignment, you go beyond all duality, beyond all space and time to experience the fullness of the universe in both form and beyond form. It's what the Buddhists call parlance, which is your emptiness. You get to that place of just saying, empty me out so that I can be refilled again, refueled and refilled, so that there can be a different feeling, so that you get to that different place, so that you're no longer unconscious, but now you're conscious, conscious in how you move, conscious in how you think, conscious in what you do. You become a conscious individual and you're not just moving unconscious, but there's a consciousness behind why you do what you do. This is a place of, when you get to that place, this becomes a place of non judgment. And that's a hard place to get. Don't want to, I don't really want to constantly judge you. Maybe you don't think like I think, and that's okay. And I know today we've heard a lot, as Gigi was sharing with us, about her personal relationship with God. That's an awesome thing that she's gotten to that place with her personal relationship with God. You may not be there yet, and that's okay, but I'm not going to judge you, and I'm sure she's not going to judge you either. And maybe your relationship is not with what she considered her God, but maybe your relationship is with your God, which could be, okay, some call it the universe, some call source, some call it source energy, Jehovah. I mean, whatever you decide, that's fine. We're not going to be judgmental. I mean, that's the problem. Too many people judge as it is, and everybody wants to come across as if that's it, that's all. It's not. Don't be judged. Don't be a judge or a jury, because we have no place to judge, nor place to be the judge or the jury. But this is a place when you get to this being empty and you're refueled and refilled, then this is a place of non judgment where the paradoxes between relative and universal truths are understood and resolved. In this state, you are connected with all of life in a state of total and unconditional love. And that's the place we want to be, a state of total and unconditional love. Enlightenment requires awakening, but awakening does not necessarily result in enlightenment. That was a mouthful, and I'm going to say that again because somebody's getting it. Enlightenment requires awakening, but awakening does not necessarily result in enlightenment. Those of you that are listening today by Facebook Live, thank you so much for being a part of Reggie's Recess. Some of you listen every week and you tune into Facebook Live every week. Certainly appreciate you. And there are those who will hear us tonight on 87.9 Heat FM Charlotte. I certainly appreciate you. And then there are those who will watch me on the Win Network. Thank you. I certainly appreciate you. If you want to give me a call, feel free. You can give me a call with questions, comments, concerns. You can reach me at 702 350 9063. Again, that's 702 350 9063. You might be saying to yourself, what can I do? I'd love for him to be my coach. I'd love to get him just to talk to him. Well, hey, listen, for the first 15 people who will call 702-350-9063, I will give you a free consultation. Okay? Just free consultation. We can talk about your relationships. We can talk about, what it takes to maybe answer those three questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And how am I going to get there? But my whole objective is to give you dating and relationships from a male conscious perspective. Some say I'm the number one relationship coach. What do I say? I say, yes, I am the number one relationship coach. So call 702 350 9063 and you'll get a free consultation for the first 15 people that called. Now, how will we be able to count the first 15 people? I don't know. That means that if you call, I'm going to give you a consultation. So, hey, take advantage of that. Okay, 702-350-9063. I want to give a shout out to my show producer, which is Steven Sebo. Thank you so much, sir, for making us look good, making us sound good, and making us appear good. Steven Sebo from Action Shot Productions. So, of course, yes, this is another Action Shot Productions. If you want to get in contact with Steven Sebo, look up Action Shot Productions. You could go to connoisseurentertainment.com. You'll see there Connoisseur Entertainment and Action Shot Productions. So it's connoisseurentertainment.com. Steven is able to provide you with videos, documentaries, movies, commercials. You name it, he can do it. So thank you, Steven, for being there. And I got to close. But in closing, here's what I want to say. I want to say this. The spiritual path ultimately is awakening to our minds and the world we have constructed based on inaccurate beliefs. Let me say that again. The spiritual path ultimately is awakening to our minds and the world we have constructed based on inaccurate beliefs. Our eyes and minds often deceive us when they tell us what the world looks like. Don't be fooled. Understand the awakening, because the awakening is a process, not an event. And each person's path to awakening is unique. There's that word again, unique. Gigi talked about unique. So the awakening is a process and not an event. And each person's path to awakening is unique. You cannot force another person to awaken. Each person is on their own path to awakening. Each person has to take their own route. So choose a good route. And whatever that route is, make sure you do ask yourself those three questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And how am I going to get there? You'll have a long conversation with yourself, but it'll be a great dialogue with yourself. Don't be afraid. Talk to yourself. Have those conversations with yourself. And don't be afraid to get the answers that's going to put you on the right course and on the right path to be awakened so you are no longer fooled. Don't be fooled. The awakening that stretches so far more than just in relationship male to female, because sometimes we fool ourselves. Maybe it's the relationship that you have with yourself. Don't be fooled. Be awakened. I gotta go. I'll be back next week. We got a great show again lined up for you next week. Next week I will bring my team together. I'm going to have Dr. Sophie next week. I'm going to have Jennifer McCrae next week. I'll bring the team together and we're going to have that dialogue about everything that we've talked about for this month. We will recap everything and Dr. Sophie will stir it up, mix it up, and make it all good. You guys have a great rest of the day. I'll be back next week. Bye.